What's up, guys? You know, I've been talking about The Amazing Spider-Man for quite a long time here, and I've defended the title for quite a long time. It's had its ups, it's had its downs. I'm like, oh, we'll see what happens. Let's see what's going to go on. This is probably about my 6th or 7th take when it comes to, you know, talking about this comic book, and I got a lot to say. So let's not waste too much time. If you're not familiar with who I am, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. This is Comic Book Corner 2.0. This is another episode of Spider-Man Weekly. And if you love comic book content and I bring it to you daily, you're going to love this channel. Consider hitting that subscribe button. So let's get going with this Amazing Spider-Man issue 26. Now, we've had 26 issues of Zeb Wells Spider-Man, John Romita Jr. artwork, and I am so tired of it. I've said it in the past, guys. If this issue does not deliver for me, this could go down to date, as of right now, the worst Amazing Spider-Man run I have ever read. Even worse than Nick Spencer's run, because at least with Nick Spencer's run, he had good story arcs in between. And it feels like that when Zeb Wells was writing this book, it seems like we're building and building and building up into something, right? But the payoff of this is just underwhelming. It's flat. It's like, who gives a shit? And you're just like, I just want to crumple this up and throw it in the trash, and let's see where we're going to go after this particular story arc, right? Which already does seem better than this. It feels like Zeb Wells had to write this epic story, which he felt was epic, and it was a complete bust, in my opinion, okay? What took the sales out of this story arc? Well, number one, how long and drawn out this whole thing was. Took us forever to find out who Paul was. Took us forever to find out who the kids are. Let's keep in mind now the kids are no longer around. And it took us forever to find out who was going to get killed in this issue 26, right? And we got spoiled 2 weeks before this comic book came out. And I couldn't begin to tell you how pissed off I am at that. Now, if we were not spoiled, okay, when it came to this comic book 2 weeks ahead of time, would I be just as upset right now? Maybe, but at least we would be having that conversation about who was dying now than 2 weeks ago. So when you got this comic book in your hands, you would kind of be surprised on who it was and why this happened, right? But we got spoiled 2 weeks ago, and now you're reading it and you're just like, it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Oh, it's just Miss Marvel. Who gives a shit about her? She's got a movie coming out. She's gonna come back alive. Like, everybody knows what's going on. And the crappy thing about this particular comic is that it's like Zeb Wells had this agenda when it comes to Miss Marvel, because I guess he's writing the Marvels movie, or he's attached to it in some way, shape, or form, and they're trying to get Miss Marvel more aligned with the MCU or whatnot, and maybe put something out there so people can get excited about her. Whatever the case may be. The last time I checked, this is a fucking Amazing Spider-Man comic book, right? And excuse my language here, but I am very frustrated. This is an Amazing Spider-Man comic. This is not a Kamala Khan comic book. And no disrespect to the character. I think she is kind of a cool character, right? But when has she ever appeared into this series until now? And that we're going to use the Amazing Spider-Man platform to kill her off. She sacrifices herself in this comic book, right? And supposedly, I guess she can switch to where she looks like other people. I never knew that she could do that, but supposedly she can in this comic. And she poses as Mary Jane, and she gets killed instead of Mary Jane. And then the whole thing goes south with Raven, right? And we lose the kids in this comic, so the kids don't exist anymore. Good, they're gone. I don't give a shit about those kids anyway, because, again, nothing really matters in this comic. They make it feel like it's going to matter, that it's going to be big, but it's not big. It's just a bunch of crap. And I'm so frustrated by that, because it's just, we want the Ms. Marvel movie to succeed, so we're going to put her on this pedestal. She doesn't even have her own freaking book, and so we stick her here, right? Just totally upsetting. Everything about the comic was upsetting to me because I feel like we could have pushed the envelope and done something, but we didn't. For instance, what if Miss Marvel and Mary Jane died and we didn't know? Or maybe we could have done a red herring where it was this fake article saying, yeah, Miss Marvel's gonna die, and then somebody else dies. Or maybe Miss Marvel dies and, excuse me, and Aunt May dies. Somebody else, somebody in the Spider-Man family, you know, should have died in this comic book to make it worthwhile. But at the end of the day, it's a villain that no one cares about, that killed a character that some people care about, but we all know that she's going to come back. So at the end of the day, there's no stakes in this comic, and we read 26 issues of this story, including an event of Dark Web, which was very unfulfilling in itself as well. The only thing that came out of it, for me at least, was the Hallows Eve character, right? That is it, at least for me. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys, and I always would say this, if you like the comic book, that is great. If you thought this is a real story and you enjoyed it, maybe this is your first time reading Spider-Man, that is awesome. But for me, a person that's been reading Spider-Man since he was 15 years old, I've been reading since the early or late 200s all the way up until now, this is the worst run. Yes, it's a story that's been constructed, you know, and we've been going along here for over a year now, and I can say it's come full circle, right? It's a competent story, but it's not a great story. And when you have a character, an A-lister like the Amazing Spider-Man, you expect greatness, and we have not had greatness when it's come to Amazing Spider-Man in a very long time. When you count this Zeb Wells run, and then when you count the Nick Spencer run before that, right? I can tell you that Dan Slott made Spider-Man look damn good after reading what I've been reading for the past few years here. And when I read Superior Spider-Man, when it came to Dan Slott, that was, going back on that, that's a pretty good story. And some of the things that he did, he pushed the envelope. He created deaths that mattered. Maybe people didn't agree with it, but it's a lot better than what we're getting right now, because now we have Mary Jane with some idiot that's by the name of Paul that comes from a different dimension that's like the father of the Raven guy. Who cares about that dude? And the kids don't even matter. There's absolutely nothing at stake in this comic. The only thing that I can say when it comes to The Amazing Spider-Man issue 27 is we're finally moving on from this garbage, and then maybe now, just maybe, that Zeb Wells doesn't have this agenda anymore with Ms. Marvel, and maybe he can tell some fun Amazing Spider-Man stories, because in the next issue, we're going to have Dr. Octopus, and we're going to have Kraven the Hunter, it looks like, in there. Maybe that could be a lot of fun. But from what I know, it looks like that Zeb Wells is going to be on this book to maybe issue 50. That's what I heard. We'll see if that happens. But to say that this book was the best book in 50 years, that is BS. That is absolute nonsense. There is no way that this was the best book by far. I could have a random issue that I read probably about 5 years ago that was way better than this. Shit, even maybe probably 3 weeks ago. I don't even know. But whatever the case may be, this is by far not the best issue at all. And I am just so disappointed with this run right now. I had to vent. I know this is not really a review of the comic book, but we all know what happens in this comic at this point. I want to know in the comments below where you guys stand with Amazing Spider-Man. Are you done? Are you continuing it? You guys know that I'm a huge fan. I read it through the thick and thin, but I've never been so disappointed in a book that was supposed to mean so much in my life. So again, guys, leave me all those comments below. If you love the content, like I said, subscribe. I'll leave you more content right here to check out. And of course, guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, but more importantly, always read your comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Take care.